I feel like everybody in here has heard you talk about Montreal, and I don't really want to ask you the same question you've answered probably a million times in your career. So I want to try and ask something different about it. You can see that you and Brett are not getting on. You're completely different ends, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, poor you about it, because obviously you had to do this thing and you made the decision to do it. But what's interesting is when you watch the Raws after Survivor Series 97, Brett's gone. For the next month on TV, you're doing stuff about Brett, whether it's a midget dressed as Bret Hart, where you put that was funny, where you put WCW on his ass and like kicked him out, or, embarrassed Jim the Anvil Neidhart or whatever. So I guess my question for you is, Vince asks you to do this thing to, will you help me do what we feel we need to do? After that, was there a part of you that thought, can we just not talk about Brett and move on? Or were you kind of like, I mean, they're going to hate me anyway, so I may as well just keep going?
Well, you know what? I mean, so on one hand, you know that you're the most despised guy in the wrestling business. So, and honestly, there's a part of me, and again, the guy that goes home, that nobody ever gets to see. Go back home to San Antonio, and you just, again, you look in the mirror and you just go, dang. I mean, because I will tell you this much: when I was 12 years old, and whatever, you look at the stuff with the Rockers and the Intercontinental, all the stuff in my wrestling career, you don't see yourself. You don't come home again to Texas where you're Sean Hickenbottom, and you don't look yourself in the mirror and go like, all right, great. I've become the most hated guy in the wrestling business. You know what I mean? And you don't sit there and go like, that isn't. You know what I mean? So it is. So there's that part of you. Okay. Again, there is. I mean, believe it or not, there is a real life part of you that goes, this is absolutely this sucks so bad. Every part of this sucks. You know what I mean? And then you go to work and look, man, I put on the mask and I frickin', I would, you can't do something like that, in my opinion, and I will confess probably wrong and everything else. But at that time, did not feel I could do that job with any amount of anything and have 1 ounce of break or guilt or shame or whatever. It had to be a freaking rock. And so I went back and I did it and I loved it and I shoved it in everybody's face and I freaking walked the walk and I talked the talk and then I went out there and told you I was going to rip the freaking house down. And I'd go out there and I'd rip the house down and I'd say, see, and then I'd walk out and that would be that. And then I'd go home and I'd go, well, and again, and I appreciate that. And years later, it's nifty and it's cool. But again, but then you would. I mean, I'd go home, you know what I mean, and sit there, at that time, single by myself, in my place, and go like, this sucks. Because it's not how you pictured it being. You know what I mean? This feeling now. This is, and it eventually, got like this. Clearly, right now, but at that time you didn't know that, and all I knew at that time was, God, this sucks. You know what I mean? Again, on one hand, I guess you got what you always wanted, Sean. You're on top of the wrestling world, but it freaking sucks.
And it's interesting because there's an article online somewhere where there was a WWF live event. I think it was December of '97 in Arkansas or something, and people were throwing batteries at you, and like. It's not. People think it's funny.
They were starting to burn the building.
Yeah. And you guys at one point had to not go out for the main event because it was that bad. And I mean, I guess, but also what's interesting about it is, I guess Vince McMahon had to kind of make a call of, I can't deal with Shawn and Brett together anymore because they just don't get on and whatever. And you're the choice. You're the guy he goes with. It's all going forward. And then a couple of months later, you get this back injury, and you think that you're done potentially. That's got to be like the biggest roller coaster ever, that you figure it out. I'm going to be the most hated guy and just walk the walk, and then you have this casket match. The back injury happens, and it might be done.
Yeah. No, and once again, you're like, this sucks. Yeah. No, it is. It's like I said, it's convenient now, getting to look at it all in the rearview mirror, going through it again. It's it was. look, it's why I do get sentimental. It's why I don't take a lot of stuff that seriously anymore. It's why I've turned into the type of human being that I am. It's why I don't do podcasts and say bad things about other people or whatever. I don't have any. I've had enough drama in my life, and and the thing is, look, you have to understand. I look at what I've been through, what I have survived. A bunch of the dudes I used to run around with are dead, and so I got a second chance. All I need is one. You know what I mean? And so I just decided, you give me 1 second chance. I don't, I won't lick a gift horse in the mouth. And so, but again, none of it was easy. None of it was fun. And like I said, it's much better, to be standing on this side of it now. Believe me.
The thing is, you come back, you do the match with Hunter at SummerSlam, and it's, I'm going to see how it goes, whatever. You brought the chaps back, which we all appreciated. But it becomes like an 8-year run, and I don't know about a lot of people in here, but there was times in the 2000s where I kind of was going to stop watching WWE, but you were one of the reasons I kept watching it, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. And talk about the decision about coming back, and because you talked earlier about if I did one more match, there's all this pressure of it's got to be great or whatever. So even then in 2002, the opinion of Shawn Michaels as a wrestler was so high that if you came back, I guess you kind of had to feel comfortable that you could hit that again.
Well, so I had no intention of again coming back, and I guess, but also, so from my standpoint, I never really retired or anything like that. I mean, I was forced to leave the wrestling business, and I reconciled in my mind that I had done that. So without again putting you all through the whole Jesus thing, I only make the only. Well, I'm just saying I try not to force it on anybody. But the thing, I just have to say that. So obviously that had a lot to do with it. All of a sudden, I'm just feeling like I can do anything. I mean, it was just sort of weird. It was funny. I managed to somehow get all the bravado that I once had back without any of the ego or the I don't know, the brashness or the I don't know, being a jerk about it and everything else. I just felt like I can do this stuff again. There's just no way. Again, there's there's a couple words in this book that then it says like I can do anything, and so. Just felt like, well, then if I can, it says if I can do anything, why in the world couldn't I wrestle again? And especially again, if I originally was talking about doing it with Vince and be sort of easy, just tears and yada yada yada, and nothing too crazy. Then he makes a suggestion of it being Hunter, and of course, in my mind, because Hunter was the champ at that time, and I was not even thinking that was an option. I was thinking about, just one, like plus one other exciting match. So, well, of course I can do it with him. That's my buddy. He'll take care of me and everything else. So it was hardly a risk. And if it was a risk, it was a very calculated one. I was out there with somebody I'm very comfortable with again. And I felt like $1 million. I just felt like I could, pardon the pun, walk on water. But I just felt like I really could. I just felt like I could do anything. And you have to understand, gosh, whatever. At the very least, if you're not into the other stuff, look, I was, married to again to a woman that I'm 20 years later, I'm still madly in love with her. You know what I mean? We've got, Well, at that time we had a child. There's so many other things to, life is about so much more. And I've now come to that realization that, oh my goodness, there's more to this living in this world than just, pretend pro wrestling. Who knew? Shocking, but again, it was a real revelation for me. And so again, with all those things combined, it just felt like I could take on the world. And so, again, we, with a lot of planning and everything else, well, I'll have this, this one more match and we'll do it. And then it just turned out, so well. And of course, again, Vince is like, I mean, it looked like you missed a step, and of course now we're starting to talk about a bunch of other stuff. Like, whoa, you take it easy. I don't know what I don't know what's going on. I didn't know if I could do this. So anyway, let's put it this way: I was sort of amazed at how well it went and how sort of I don't know. It just felt like I'd never left today, and so again, like I said, even I was sort of taken aback by that. I just figured it would be, I don't know, I figured it'd be more difficult, and it wasn't. And so again, and then of course, you start to sort of realize that, look, let's face it, dude. I mean, from the time you were 12, and certainly from the time you were 19, you've done one thing. You don't, you can't do anything else. You don't have other talents. You're not well rounded. You know, so it just seems sort of natural to, again, like, this is you've been put on this earth to do one thing, and it's this stuff. So stop, jerking around. Get out there and do what it is you were built to do. And so, believe it or not, though, it took me some time to come to that realization, because I'm not the smartest guy in the world. And so
also, and we saw in the club that you were in the first elimination chamber, you won the world heavyweight title, you had it for like a month, and what struck me was that was November 2002. You won the title, you had it for like a month or something, but then between late 2002 and when you retired in 2010, you never once had a world title run. And that struck me as maybe something that there's been rumors, I don't know if this is true, there's rumors that you had said, if I'm going to be the champion, I want to be the guy that's there all the time. I want to be full time. If I'm going to be here, a couple of days a week or whatever, I don't want to be the champion. Is that true? And because it seems like Shawn Michaels is not going to be in WWE for 7 years and not be champion.
Yeah. No, it was just I came back with the understanding that I don't want to be, my and again, it's going to sound, it does. It sounds cheesy, but it's. And it is cheesy, but it is true. I absolutely being irrelevant is okay with me. I at the very least, I had learned in my life that I did not need to focus. I have absolutely, it is. I mean, I say it to people all the time. I was number 2, and it is absolutely the greatest thing. Again, because you know what? Because it is. Because there every now and then there are people like you or you guys, when it comes to maybe you didn't draw the more, but you had the best wrestling. That's all that matters to me. Okay, there's a part of me in all of you, or a part of all of y'all's growing up or whatever. I learned that about this line of work. I had created stuff that I don't know any other 190-pound guys that have done it, and so that's all. That's good enough for me. I don't need to run. I told them I don't need to run. The champion needs to be there all the time. I'm not going to be here all the time. I'm not going to work all the time. I'm not giving everything to this line of work. Again, I'm giving that to my family. I'm going to give you what is left over. I'm going to give you everything I have when I'm here. But I'm absolutely, and again, that was fine with everybody. But no, I did not need to focus on me anymore. I did not need the spotlight, any of that kind of stuff. I just, wanted to go out there and sort of, I guess, finish what I started and do, honestly, again, as silly as it sounds, do what I felt like I was born to be a wrestler in the WWE. That's what I was built to do. And then I was built to do that for a certain time. Then I was built to be a dad and a husband. And then now apparently, continue to try to help other people go on and get to do what I did. And that's honestly what I enjoy about working with NXT and the PC and everything else, is trying to get those guys to understand that, yes, the, getting to the top and all that stuff is very important, and I want them to focus and concentrate on it. But ultimately, what's going to be the most important thing to them, if they get the opportunity to be 50 years old and get to do stuff like this and get to run across you guys on a regular basis and sit there and say that, hey, man, when you threw Marty through the window, it changed my life. Or when you did this, or when you guys did that. It is, guys, I'm telling you, it's the memories. It is, I never thought in a million years I get to have that with, what is?